Today we're talking long distance relationships. I'm qualified to talk about them because I was in one for 4.5 years, coast to coast, California to Virginia, starting 2015 to 2019. In conclusion, never going to do it again. I recommend you don't do it again, but there's pros and cons to everything, and today I'm going to talk about that for long distance relationships. Let's start off with a high note. There's definitely perks of long distance relationships, and it depends largely on what kind of person you are. But number one, by far, is the ability to be independent while still having something. This sounds kind of wrong because why would you want to be in a relationship when you want to be independent? But people still need their own time. People need their own ability to pursue things, especially if you're a career oriented person or if you like independent activities, if you're introverted. Much of which didn't really work for me, but this is still a pro. I was pretty career oriented during college. My girlfriend at the time was pretty career oriented. So I think being long distance allowed us to focus on what we needed to focus on, especially during college, without being distracted by the significant other. I think this is something that I've been hearing recurrently for other long distance relationship people, that it really allows you or enables you to be independent without feeling dependent, and almost forces you to be independent and gets you to focus on things that you need to focus on. Secondly, long distance relationships also gets you to be more intense or appreciative of the time that you spend with each other. If you are short distance or if you're near each other, meeting each other is not really a burden. So it's something that you could do anytime without much responsibility, especially over time as the original flare goes down, the honeymoon phase is over. It's not going to be as exciting as the first months of dating. But in long distance relationships, if you count the actual days that you meet, especially if you're coast to coast or even international, the number of days you meet will probably be fewer than the first couple months of intense, close by relationships. So you get to really treasure these moments and time them and really plan them out in advance. I remember when I was in long distance relationships, in the week that we would see each other, or Thanksgiving, Christmas break, we would be planning far in advance. And I'm not really much of a planner, but this forced me to be a planner and really think about every hour of the day, which meals we want to have, which venues we want to hit up, where we want to do walks, we want to spend every 5 minutes, because the time was limited. And I think that made every occurrence, every encounter special, and it required us to make it special, which made it special. On that note, I think for the final pro, not that there's only three pros, but the three main pros that I can think about, I think it gets you to just value the relationship as a whole, because the amount that you see each other is quite limited. The amount that you interact with them, and for me, who really values quality time and just being present, I think it is a solid reminder constantly how much preciousness is involved in the relationship, how great the girl is or the guy is, depending on who you are. And you just constantly think about it, because there's only so much time you could spend with them, which gets you to really dig in psychologically about how much you love this person, how much you want to spend time with this person, and reflect on the limited time that you spent with them. So every moment truly counts. On to the cons, and to back up why I think no one should be in long distance relationships. I don't think we're built as human beings for long distance relationships, and why I won't ever be in a long distance relationship. Number one, I think it's kind of the flip of the same pro that I talked about, where you get limited time that you spend it very efficiently. I don't want to do that. I don't think you should do that. I think we're meant to spontaneously meet and meet with ease, and yet treasure the moments together. If you like someone, you should want to meet with them as much as possible. Of course, people need their own time, especially introverts need to recharge. But if you're theoretically thinking about living with this person and marrying this person eventually, you should practice that. You should be okay with spending time with that person. As a Christian, as a pretty conservative person, I don't really believe in living with someone before we get married, but you should spend as much time as you need slash want, which ideally is a lot, spontaneously and non-planned in months advance, and counting down the time and then feeling like, oh damn, it's already over. As a pretty spontaneous person, I need that, and you can't do that in long distance relationships. To go into it a bit more specifically, when you're in a fight, there's inevitably fights in relationships. When you're in an argument, it's very hard to resolve them if you're not in person. There's only so much you could do over the phone. FaceTime has definitely enabled this a bit more. Texting has made this a bit more annoying, and I'll talk about that next. But it's a lot easier and meaningful, both easy and meaningful, which makes it, by definition, efficient to resolve conflicts in person. You can bring them flowers or hug it out, randomly visit them, say, I'm sorry, and read the body language and see that this person is genuinely sorry. Or spend physical time away from each other so that you don't have to wait until the next time you see each other in long distance relationships to resolve that conflict. There's no wasted time, and the time that you want to spend loving each other instead of hating each other is maximized. I think that's probably the biggest con that I saw in my long distance relationships, where if we got into a conflict, there was an awkward phase where I had to resolve the time difference and this person was going to bed, even though I wanted to solve this, or the reverse. And there was miscommunication over text, the way that you read the tone. If you want to FaceTime, there was internet disconnection problems. Long story short, it's a lot easier to resolve conflict in person. I think human beings have a limitation on how much they can resolve a conflict over online mechanisms. I think texting, smartphones in general, has made us believe that certain things are possible also over the phone, that Zoom is just as efficient as in real life meetings, but that's just simply not true. As the remote era of the pandemic has gone by, we all know that there are inevitable obstacles in trying to resolve conflicts in that way. And I think that's probably the biggest blockage of long distance relationships, where communication needs to be a holistic approach in person, and it's very limited by long distance. Lastly, and this is the thing that I was talking about, long distance inevitably depends on texting and calling as a mean or mode of communication, which I have no problem with. I love my phone. I will openly admit that I'm addicted to my phone, but that's not how you want to communicate with your significant other 24/7. In fact, the healthiest relationships I see around me are people that see each other in person and don't rely on their phones to text each other. The happiest couples around me don't text each other 24/7. They check in, they let each other know what they're up to. You don't want the person to be MIA, but you don't see them addicted or attached to their phone while they're with others. In fact, great significant others probably don't want the other significant other to be on their phone while they're out with their friends or out at work or out at church or whatever they're doing. I think long distance relationships, by definition, require you to do that. It's not healthy. You are Alexaing or Siriing the other person, and I don't want a majority of my life with them to be over the phone or on a digital screen. Of course, the inevitable end goal is that long distance ends. I don't think anyone wants to be in long distance in perpetuity. I don't think anyone would choose long distance over short distance. But Gavin had experience in long distance for 4.5 years, which is 20% of my life. And it's frankly the only serious relationships I've ever been in. I would highly advise against it. I've had good times during it. The person that I dated was a wonderful person. We didn't necessarily end on a bad note. Just feelings faded and it was over. I'm sure a lot of it was attributable to these reasons, but I don't think it does good for either person in the long run. And it doesn't build a firm foundation. It's not natural. It's not something that we're built to do. I personally look forward to a non-long distance relationship, having never really had one. I think it's quite important that you actively think about these things. If you're in a long distance relationship, this is not a call to action to break it off. I'm sure that other person is more than worth it, which is why you're doing it. But you should make active efforts to reduce the distance or not make it long distance. Today, I reflected on something that I haven't reflected in a quite long time. I will stand firm and say long distance relationships are bad. I think that relationships in general are tough. I'm sure that there's long distance relationships that are healthier than non-distance relationships. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to maximize your chances of having a successful one and making sure you know that your priorities are aligned with theirs. I love these kind of conversations. I hope to have more of them. As always, I thank you guys for watching. I hope this was not discouraging for whoever is in a long distance relationship right now. I will see you guys next time. I don't know why I look so sad all of a sudden. Let's go.